Good morning, all, or happy lunchtime for my friends in the East and others of you living in the future. And welcome to Kal-bardr's Corner for this episode of Coffee with Kal. I am bearing Kal-bardr Gellir, painting the Meridian Cross, painting the Argent Comet, painting the Compostela, painting the Palmer's Lantern, and Reaper, coming to you live from the southwest outpost of the Barony of Southbounds, here on the beautiful southern coast of Meridies. Now, for today's show, I have an old friend of mine. She's not old, but she's an old friend of mine. A gambler who is amazing at filling my coffers with her coin, and she knows way too many of my stories from long ago. The current Baroness of Small Grey Bear, or if you ask her partner Sir Axel, Swole Grey Bear. Her Excellency Jacquette d'Anjou. Hey, buddy.
What an introduction. Why, thank you so much.
If you will, tell us a little bit who you are and why you are in fact amazing, Jack.
Well, my name, like you said, is Jacquette d'Anjou. I am from the Barony of Small Grey Bear. Not Swole Grey Bear. Small Grey Bear.
Whoa.
In the Kingdom of Glenavon. I've been playing in the SCA for almost 20 years now. I think this August is my 19-year anniversary. So I started in Meridies in the Shire of Arenal in Pensacola and played in Meridies for about 8 years and then moved over to Glenavon. Since being in Glenavon, I have lived in the Barony of Greynish, which is Memphis, and then I moved over to Small Grey Bear, which is the Little Rock area. And in the SCA, I've done a lot. I feel like I've done a lot of hound coursing. I have greyhounds. I've had greyhounds and have one now, and ran hound coursing in Meridies while I was there. Now here in Glenavon, I guess I'm best known for I do silk banners and I do natural dyeing is where my interests lie. I also do a lot of textile work. But that's I guess why I'm awesome. Like
that is the thing I would have named it while you were awesome. So like that works for me.
But you're correct. I'm also very good at filling your coffers because I am just fantastic at losing games.
The literal best at it, actually. I'm so impressed. Like I feel good because I lose a lot. So when I play with you, I lose less. It works out great for me.
Great.
Oh man! All right. So today's show is, of course, coffee themed, and that is the most important thing we're here today to talk about. So for today's coffee, I have a chocolate cappuccino from New England Coffee. I've paired with a caramel creamer. And yes, it tastes like caffeinated chocolate milk, and I love it. Of course, drinking it out of my Feed the Ravens mug from my Westie Besties, because, reasons. So, what about you, Jack? What are you drinking today?
So we have a coffee shop down the corner called Seven Brew, and I am drinking. It's basically espresso with chocolate milk. The most important thing, though, is this is also a Feed the Ravens mug. This was created by Maggie specially for me. It's a Islamic design. The shape of the cup is based on Islamic cups, and it's got this beautiful blue color and this amazing design.
Ooh!
So it is my favorite cup and doesn't leave the house because I am very, very protective of it.
That was my biggest deal. When I first got this, I was like, this is not leaving. It goes on my desk for this show, and it goes back in the cabinet. That's it. And I finally took it to war. I was like, okay, I'm not going to break it. Maybe I'm not as much of a savage as I used to be with cups, but I'm still scared.
So I've also got water today because it's important to hydrate, and that is also in a Feed the Ravens mug. So I just they're just awesome. How could you not rep Feed the Ravens?
Product placement. You're welcome, Feed the Ravens.
Right? Todd and Maggie are on it.
It was so fun when I ran into her at Gulf Wars, and she's like, "Hey, it's a nice mug you got there." And I was like, "I know, right?" Because I realized who she was. Like I'd seen her on camera, so I was like, "I know, right?" To Feed the Ravens mug. Like I just played up. I didn't know her. It's so funny. It was nice to finally get to reintroduce the cup to the potter. Many years later. All right. Before we get actually into the topic, I do want to do the official bits real quick. So the views and opinions expressed here are those of the participants and do not reflect any official position or policy of the SCA Inc., the Kingdom of Glenavon, or the Barony of Small Grey Bear. These are our opinions, not the group's. Let's be clear about that.
Yes.
Okay. We're covered. We're official now. Get that out of the way. I do not want people yelling at me today. Don't need it. Had enough of that. Thank you. All right. So today's topic is, I think, a weird one initially, and I'm gonna start off with controversial things here. I'm just gonna go ahead and piss off everybody in the comments. The SCA is a LARP. It is a role-playing game. We all have roles to play. All right. When the gnashing of teeth stops for a second, I'm just gonna give everybody a second. All right. So I see that because, yes, we don't have magic spells. There are no dragons running around. There's no, whatever. I get it. But we all have parts to play in that, right? Every pointy hat that exists, every periods that exists, everything, whereas they are awards. They are things we've achieved for some reason. You're not a laurel just because it looks fancy on your chest. You're a laurel because you've done stuff. But those parts have importance to the game that we play and sort of to the whole. You're right. All of us don't have magic spells, Aslak. You do. We get it. You're a magician. We understand. You weirdo. Okay. Aslak has magic. The rest of us don't. He's a wizard. But so, Jack, as the current Baroness of Small Graveyard and been so for a bit now, what are your initial, what are your feelings about that part and sort of the roles you play in the SCA? Sort of give me your initial thoughts.
So it's super important, right? It's not important for me. It's important for the people around me.
Right.
That idea of playing the part. When you step into any position in the SCA, when you advance throughout the SCA and you get your AOA and your GOA and maybe eventually a peerage, maybe eventually you become crown. The further you advance, the more responsibility is on your shoulders to kind of help that dream, right? We think of the SCA as a dream, and we have this ideal that we really wish to bring to other people to share, talk about sharing the dream with others, and that's what the SCA is all about. And I feel that as you climb those ranks in the SCA, it is more and more your responsibility to become that dream for other people, to put that dream on. It's not about, I didn't become a laurel because I wanted a fancy hat or whatever. I became a laurel because I want to do the work to make the SCA better for everyone else. I became a Baroness because I want to work to make the SCA better. I want to make it fun. I want to make it inviting. And I want to be that figure that helps move it along. So it's a little less mundane and a little more the SCA we want it to be.
Right. I think that's the important thing to look at. The make the dream you want, right? I think that phrase is super important to look at. You mentioned earlier about in the pre-show about the ambiance. The ambiance is important, and you're right. I think it is. That mentality and concept is often overlooked, I think, because and you and I have dealt with this down here on the coast a lot. It does become very mundane when we're dealing with the day-to-day political stuff and the day-to-day business, because ultimately the SCA is a business. We covered our bases of policies and opinions, because ultimately the SCA Incorporated is a business and we all function as a hobby club, and we have to focus on that, and that's important. But then there's the whole other, actually, in my opinion, more important side of what we do, which is the fancy clothes and the fancy hats and all the stuff that really makes the thing we do fun. Is it hard for you in your 20 years? Have you seen, how do you maintain that balance, I guess? Is it hard? And you've been in two different kingdoms, a couple different baronies now. How have you maintained that balance and still had fun with it, but not dealt with the politics, but still had fun?
That's a really hard question. It can get really exhausting dealing with the politics of the SCA, and as you progress in the ranks, there's more political BS to deal with, right? But for me, what really invigorates me is seeing new people come in. And as we stepped up, my partner and I, our main goals for our barony was recruitment and retention, right? Like the barony, the SCA dies without new blood. But it's also kind of selfish because that new blood that we bring in invigorates me. It helps me want to do more, want to give more. I've always been kind of the SCA gave me a lot when I first started. It gave me friends and family and a place to kind of explore and learn new skills. And I always want to repay that, but sometimes you can get really bogged down with all of the responsibilities, all of the other things that have to be done, and losing that joy that's like the reason we all play, right? Like if it wasn't fun, we wouldn't play. So having new...
You say that, but I've seen people who played this game who didn't seem to enjoy it, and that's really confusing to me.
Like, that's not my game. Like, I'm having fun, I'm going someplace else. I don't know why you would want to spend time and money and energy on something that you don't enjoy. I don't know what that's all about. But if that's your game, go for it. Go for it. But just have a good time, right? Like why would you invest so much into an activity where you don't have fun?
Right. Yeah. So I want to tell a little story from I may have told this story before on one of these shows, but I'll tell it again today for you and I playing the part, because I think this sets a good example of sort of the roles of nobility, right? So you are a landed noble. I am a lesser noble. I am a court baron, but those roles, in my opinion, are important and give you there. You are now somebody that is more important in the medieval landscape than just the lords and ladies of the world, right? At the end of the day, we all put our pants on Monday morning, go back to work, or some of us put pajama pants on and go to work, which is amazing. But those noble roles start to matter and start to play things, or should. So at Gulf Wars this year, you and I had a little run in.
You were going to bring this up.
Come on, you knew I was. You knew I was. But because I think it's actually really important as a concept to look at. So you were talking about recruitment and retention, and I ran into some of your new people at Gulf Wars at a gaming tavern. Showed up with one coin apiece to gamble with, and when I found out where they were from, I was frankly insulted that their Baroness would send them with one coin. And that's the face I got when I told her crown this. So, obviously Joffrey and I hammed this up, and I also stopped and sort of came out of character and explained to these two people, because I didn't know who they were, that you and I knew each other, and that I would not be picking on someone who I didn't know. Like, I would not have done that to someone I didn't know or some other Baroness. But because it was you, I knew I could make a big deal of it.
Thanks.
Right. Again, like I said, I wouldn't have done that to just anybody. So later in the event, I ran into Joan, your queen at the time, and I'm going to make sure her name is Joan.
Are you sure?
I'm sure her name is Joan. She actually popped on camera the other day when I was talking to James during Road to Retention. She's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going, Cal? Do you remember who I am?" I was like, "God damn it, yes, I do. Thank you." I'm never going to call her by her actual name now. I'll refer to her by her actual name. I will never call her by her actual name anymore, just because it's fun to me. Anyways, so I ran into her and was talking to her, and you happened to be nearby, and I was like, "Oh, this is perfect." So I told her this story and hammed it up, and I have to give you a ton of credit, because you stepped in and wordsmithed the fuck out of that. Like, your response to her and to me that day was like just chef's kiss eloquent. So
well, I'm glad. Words don't come easily to me, especially I don't like being put on the spot. So, and typically I just freeze, right? I don't know what it was, but man, it was. You are correct. It was. I was inspired that day. How dare you call me out in front of my crown when I gave the last of my wealth to my new people? Like, literally, that was all I had in my pockets. Like,
the phrase you said was, "Should I have given them my cornet instead, Your Majesty? Would that have helped them more?" And I was like, "Damn, Out. Done. She wins.
That was so much fun.
So, but with that, so obviously we played that up, and I also stopped and sort of explained to Joan that you and I knew each other. This was not just me being an asshole. What that did, however, it was me being a little bit of an asshole, just a little bit. But what that did was it set a stage, and it gave you and I some banter to have, right? And I think we see it between a lot of the landed barons and some of the crowns. The crowns do that, like Gulf Wars is a great example. When they do the opening ceremonies and sort of do the whole ham of who's playing with who and who's siding with who, that sort of role playing of that is very similar mentality. We'll see in court when people do shtick and things like that. That's all it was. It was shtick, and it was really just the time for you and I. There was really no one else around. I think Axel was nearby and threatened me with his dagger when I talked about kidnapping queens, but. He's a little scary. It's fine. But that shtick allowed, at that point it was just for you and I. You then extended it and took it a step further for your new people and brought it, and you cycled it back. And that was what I thought was really cool is during court. And I'm going to let you tell the story because I was there, but I want you to tell the story of court that day. I watched it.
I'm super sad that I didn't see you when you stood up during court because I would have called you out big time. So during court, what I did after that was I went out and spent a ton of money on loot at Gulf Wars and made loot bags. I had some bags that I had already made for largesse, some like little leather pouch bags. I filled those suckers up with beads and tokens and just like everything that I could get my hands on. And called them up during court and presented them each with a little loot bag so that they could go forward and gamble without me having to worry about being called out. And now, just so you know, now I'm being called out as a gambling baroness, and people are worried about the coffers of small gray bear because I can't stop losing. So, but it was a really good way to bring that back around, to bring it full circle, right? But also to give them, because the Browns are some of our newer members. Mm-hmm. They're a family of 3. They live down in Hot Springs, and they started playing right before the pandemic happened. So they had been to one event. And we're like, hey, this is really cool. We want to do this. And Gulf Wars was their 3rd event. So they're really just getting a taste of what the SCA is in person. They've been doing a lot of virtual stuff and they're really, really involved. But this is one of their first like SCA experiences. So that allowed me to kind of bring them into court, let them be a part of that shtick, and let them kind of experience part of that dream of the SCA, which was really a lot of fun.
But I think that's what we can do, right? That's really where I look at as, when I was given my court barony, when the initial shock faded, I realized, okay, I've got a responsibility now, right? And I'm sure you see that as a landed noble and as a peer. It's a responsibility to do those sorts of things, or rather, it should be, I think.
Yeah.
I know that I always try to when I'm doing stuff in camp and somebody helps me do a thing, I pay them.
Yep.
Like I keep coin on me, I keep beads on me to give them something, because as a noble, I should be paying people who help me do stuff.
Yep. It's super important. Yeah. It's something we don't see enough of in our society because we all want to help, right? I think we have a dozen and a half pelicans standing around because people want to do stuff. People like helping. People like building things, culture, societies, whatever. But we forget that those little things make a difference, right? So for them, that shtick hooked them. I've seen pictures since then. I occasionally get pictures from Sabine of, look what thing I won from Jack today, because it's funny, but it is now giving them a lifelong like obsession, and hey, if gambling is what gets you in the SCA, I'm down for it. I'll take it. But it's given them a story, and we've now set the example for them to do that for the next generation, right? Yeah. And they're probably they're probably watching right now because they absolutely love your show. So
Okay.
shout out to them and props because they have jumped in feet first in the SCA and really, really done a lot in. Like, I feel like they are the next generation of the SCA, and they are going to be part of that generation that really decides how we play, right? As we get older. And
don't say that, Jack. We're not old. We're not getting there yet. We're still young. We're still young in our days. Don't hurt me like that. As we get
older, as we progress in our SCA careers, how's that? And there's less and less responsibility out in front of the people, less and less of that being in the forefront, and more of those responsibilities behind the curtain.
Right.
They are the people. It's people like the Browns who are going to kind of come in and decide, well, do we sit around and no offense to anybody, if you do this on Friday night, it's fine. Because it's all about how you want to play the SCA. But do we spend Friday night sitting around talking about the new computer that we've built or whatever? And I understand that the SCA is a place to catch up with friends that you don't get to see very often. And like I said, that's fine. Or do we try and bring in a little bit of that magic of gambling games, card games, and spending Friday nights or Saturday nights doing stuff that helps to set that atmosphere, provide ambiance, and help us step out of the mundane world for a little while, which is what the SCA does for me, is helps me leave the mundane world behind and gives me a place to be something different.
No, that's legit, and that's fair. I think it's there are people like the Browns is a great example that didn't probably need our help, frankly, because they were going their path, right? But there are people like them that are maybe less outgoing, less sure of it. That those little things, like that shtick, like those, really triggers it, right? It gets them over that hump. It realizes, oh, we can be silly here.
Yeah.
James is a great example. The last King of Glenalbyn he really hammed it up. Him and Joan both hammed up their roles as Crown. Both the serious, I'm the king, doing the king stuff, but also being silly and having fun and bringing new people into that. I think that allowed other people to enjoy him as Crown and enjoyed the Kingdom of Glenalbyn, enjoyed sort of what they were doing. I like crowns that are very stoic and very proper, and I'm the Crown and doing Crown things, right? That's good for court, but it's not good for the nighttime. It's not good for the party. It's not good for the extra stuff. We want the fun too, and I think there's a balance there.
So I really feel like this role, like for me, for being Baroness or for being Crown, or for someone who is like in a peerage role, right? It's your job to kind of bridge that gap of well, I am. There's probably a better way to phrase this. Like I said, I'm not good on the spot. So that accessibility maybe of well, yes, I am a peer, and yes, I am playing my part as a Baroness. I am being the Baroness that the SCA needs, and wearing that coronet and being fancy and giving out largesse and being a gracious person. Mm-hmm. But then I'm going to go sit over here and gamble away the baronial coffers because I am also a person and fun, right? So
or gather your barony up to hide ducks on people during a party, perhaps, maybe. Just throwing ideas out there. Not that you would do that per se.
I would never do such a thing. I would never put ducks in people's cups.
Of course not. A bunch of people just went, God damn it, I wonder where the duck came from.
Yeah, so many ducks. I still have so many ducks. Like little teeny mini ducks. And I have a plan for next year too. So
okay.
No drink is safe.
That's right.
So, but having you're on stage, right? You're on stage, you're playing that part, but being able to know when to flip that off and be just a person.
Right.
And to be accessible and to be approachable is super important. I remember when I first started playing, I have always been like socially awkward. I don't make friends really easily. I'm not an extroverted person. So when I was 19 and first starting in the SCA, I had a really hard time. And there were a couple of times where I considered just quitting because I didn't feel included, right? And I remember, and this may just be my perception of it, but I remember you don't approach a peer, you don't approach a baroness, you don't approach royalty. I remember that culture and having a really hard time just making friends because everybody was a peer, because everybody had that part that they were playing and it never turned off. It never became, oh, I'm a baroness, but I'm also approachable, right? I'm also somebody that you can come talk to.
Right.
And that's super, super important to me, is making sure that I can go out and play and be the person that helps the dream, but also be the person that you can just come up and talk to.
Right.
And to be available for people to come up and talk to. And had a really, really hard time with that because people apparently my garb is intimidating is what I've been told. And because of that, people don't want to come and talk to me. And because I'm an introverted person, I have a hard time going out and talking to other people. Right. So part of that playing the part is getting over your fears and being able to go out and approach people and be like, hey, it's so good to see you. How are you doing? How's your dog doing? Like those kind of things help you to establish a personal connection with people and help people feel included and welcome and wanted and make them want to come back. And that's how we get retention. Like, I ranted. Sorry.
No, you. Notice I was propped up because I was like, yeah, those things. That is all that because you're right. I think the sort of being the crown, right? Being the king among the unwashed masses, right? That's the king of the people, right? And I'm using king as sort of the generic title here, but I think doing that allows that connection. You're right, and I understand the culture you come from, because again, we were an hour apart when I started, and maybe that's a Gulf Coast thing, maybe that's a thing some of the older peers. I don't know where it comes from, but you're right. A lot of the there's a separation of the peers, there's a separation of the crown. They're sort of a bigger than life thing, which on one hand I like. Because I like having them it's the crown. It's the baron. I like that sort of deference and sort of that neat thing, right?
At a certain time, at a certain place.
Yeah, exactly, at a certain time, a certain place.
But not all the time,
right?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. That was sort of what I was getting to. But also, like, even I maintain it, right? So when if people get upset with me, and it's fine. Her Grace Helga and I'm sorry, the Lady of the Mists Helga and I had this conversation early on in our talking when we first started doing shows together, because I refer to her as Her Grace, and I will always refer to her as Her Grace because that is her title that she has earned, and that is her proper title. She's like, no, I'm just Helga, it's fine, or no, I'm just Bill, it's fine. Yeah, but you're currently His Majesty, and that's what I'm going to call you. Because even though it's just you and I talking, and you and I are just, when we were sitting in camp, it was just you and I hanging out playing games, you're still Her Excellency because you are a landed noble. You are representing your crown, even when it's just you and I hanging out, throwing dice, right? That's important to me because that's the part I play. And that's the example that I try to set, that, yeah, you and I are talking and we're hanging out and we're going to go have drinks afterwards and we're going to go party and whatever. I will always defer. I will always set that example. I will always try to remember my place in the world because it's important. And I've now had to flip the script a little bit to remember my place as a noble and go, shit, I have to slightly adjust that now. I have to adjust it up a little bit. Like, I still have plenty of people that are above me, and that's perfect. Like, I'm sort of in a mid-row now. And, so I think, and that's where we have to separate the business and the role play, right? So when we're at a business meeting doing business stuff and you're the seneschal, I'm going to come to you and go, okay, Jack, we've got seneschal problems to talk about, blah, 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 blah. Here's the issue. I don't care that you're the Baroness at that point, right? Mm-hmm. You're an officer in the group and we're dealing with business. That's a whole separate thing. But if I've got a question for you from a meridian to a landed noble, I'm going to be like all official and do the official stuff and type the email out, right? That's a very official thing. It's different. I think
it is different. And that also helps people on my side, or people who are serving crown, to know what level, the way you approach somebody, and the way you structure your request or whatever it is you're bringing forward, helps me to know what level you're playing at.
Right.
What level you're approaching me at,
right.
is a better way to term that. And allows me to respond in kind. Right. So I just want to say I greatly appreciate that. But I do also want to say, so your comment about, well, we're sitting there playing games and you're still the landed Baroness. Well, yeah, and I think that is also part of playing that part of, I'm still the landed Baroness, but I am approachable. I am doing this thing where I can play games and I can sit down and I don't need to be, and when I say I mean just like in general, we don't need to be as landed or crown, always on that pedestal that comes with the title. Being able to step down off of that is also playing the part, in my opinion.
But honestly, even when you step down, and again, it's a little different. So let's shift into looking at a crown role for a second, right? Because I think the same. So if it was me and a current sitting crown sitting there with that having that same conversation, right? The conversation would be no different. The game would be no different. The difference I would expect would be there'd be a retainer standing just off scene somewhere, just out of pocket, just nearby, and that's the difference. Is there's the little bit of advancement, right? So as a landed noble, you sort of get to set your tone of your barony. All right, you set your tone when you have your on stage, you have your off stage, you have your I'm a person, but you don't have a retainer always with you. You don't have sort of all the extra finery, and that's cool. Everybody sort of gets to set their own rules for that.
We are super casual about that,
and that's fine. I think everybody gets to set that. As South Downs is a little more formal with it. Again, they're still very approachable, and they're Wistrick's a fighter, and Sneva's just an amazing person. But they always have retainers, and somebody's always with them. Even if they're just hanging out, there's always somebody with them, because that's important to them to sort of set that example, and it allows their barony to serve in those roles and sort of get them used to doing that role for a crown on a lower level, right? So it just gives them a spot to do that, even when it's just sitting around playing games. Right.
I also find that really interesting because that also I could see it in that situation where you have a retainer with you. I'm gonna have to revisit this. Having that retainer gives some new person who may not feel comfortable somebody else to approach versus walking up to the crown or whatever. They can approach that retainer and it's less intimidating.
Correct.
So that's a really good point that I'm gonna have to think on a little bit more.
It's why I like, especially when I act as retainer and the crown is sitting and they're just hanging out talking, I usually try to be a little separated but nearby so that people can approach and think about, hey, what's that thing? What's going on over here? What am I missing? Because I think people notice that when there's a person standing near something that obviously isn't involved but is paying attention, people who are aware notice that. And they're going to, and people, obviously not everybody, but at least the extroverts in the crowd are going to ask what the thing is. Or if I see somebody watching and kind of doing I've even stepped out and said, hey, want to meet the king? You want to come meet the thing? You want to come do the thing? And I've introduced people because I think that's, again, important to have those roles. And when I do it, it's very formal. This is His Majesty. This is Lord such and such, because I watch their face panic for a second, which is hilarious to me, admittedly, but it gives them that little introduction to the formality.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
So we had a couple comments come in, and we had one angry face. Oh, that's funny. I bet he messed up. So His Grace James put an angry face on this stream, and I'm going to go talking about that afterwards because that's funny. He probably oopsed and messed up, and StreamYard doesn't update. So I'm going to ask him why he's angry at me. Anyways, so we had a couple of comments come in I want to address. First of all, from the Baroness of Shattered Crystal, another landed Baroness, messaging her baronial master coin to increase her output of before war. Yes, bring me more coins, Patrona. Send them to me. I have to, again, give a shout out to Patrona. One of my celebrity moments from Gulf Wars was getting a box of swag from her, and I have some of her coin in my box now that I get to gamble with. So super excited about it. Remember, I think some of the ones that you ended up with were from her. So yeah. I mean, you probably lost them already now, but you had them at some point. You had them for a minute. The Browns probably have them now, and that's fine.
Probably, yeah. Like we've been playing games at our local practices on Sunday afternoons, and I have lost so much loot to them.
There it is. He's like, yep, totally missy emoji. Yep. So it's okay, Your Grace. I know you're mad at me. I get it. You're mad. You're not here talking with us. I understand. Oh man. All right. So Genevieve sort of asked a question. Or rather, I'm going to, and we've talked on it a little bit here. There's a damned if you do and damned if you don't aspect of playing your title role. And I'm curious, I think, to shift to the peerage side of this, because I can't speak to this, but you can. That social context being important. And we've talked about it a little bit with the idea of sort of the on-stage, off-stage, or the business versus role play. As a Laurel, and as a peer of the society, sort of how do you find that as maintaining that balance with that?
Man, it is difficult, right? As soon as you become a peer, it seems like everything you say is gospel, right? And it goes not just for peers, but landed for crowns. And I'm just gonna, I've never been crowned. I've done a lot of entourage, but I have never been crowned. So everything I say about crown is only from my aspect of seeing it through the eyes of entourage and being close to people who have been crowned and hearing them talk. So I just want to clear the air on that. But yeah, everything you say is gospel. Like, heaven forbid you're having a bad day and say something to someone that's taken out of context. And now it's making the rounds of, well, this person said this. And it's really hard. You have to, I find that you really have to watch what you say. And yeah, there are some things you're correct. I don't remember the person's name. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you say something about what's going on, people are gonna be like, yes, excellent job. I'm really glad you addressed that. That's exactly what we needed. And then on the other side of that coin, you're gonna have people talk about you behind your back and be like, I can't believe she said that. She's a Laurel, and she represents every word that comes out of that person's mouth represents the Laurel Circle, the barony, the kingdom. So it's really, it's a very fine line to walk, and it's all about balance. Trying to find that point where you can be personable, but also be who that new person, or that not even a new person, that who that person needs you to be at that particular point in time. Right. You are expected to know how to do that just instantly. There's no leadership training for peers. You don't take a class about, well, this is how you lead. We expect people to just know how to do that. And it's a really sore topic for me. I feel that we are not properly preparing people for peerage, because you do awesome art excellent. You are ready to be a peer because your art is there. You're also doing service. You're there. And then this person becomes a peer and like so and so has something to say about, well, how do I approach this delicate situation? And this new peer has never had to deal with that before. And remember, you're a peer now, so everything is gospel. Mm-hmm. So it's a really delicate situation to have to walk that line as peer, as noble, as whatever you might be. Right. I think I got off topic.
No, I think you're perfectly on topic, actually. And Aslak agrees. So, Master Aslak, newly peered, it's a one-day switch, right? So the one day you're not a peer, one day you are. I know a lot of peers, it's maybe common down here, maybe not be other places, wait a year before they take apprentices or before they take associates. I think maybe because of that, sort of they feel the weight of their own peerage and sort of get accustomed to that. I guess my question maybe is, and again, I'm going to start some controversy here, is are we maybe missing something in our road to peerage? Are we maybe missing something in our road to crown? And the fact that we're essentially elevating people without those leadership skills. We're giving them a leadership role with no leadership skills, potentially.
So I don't think it's fair to penalize people for not having those leadership skills. I think the SCA could do a better job at providing those skills and ensuring and the SCA is this generic thing. I think that we as peers,
quote that, right? Yeah.
SCA, I feel like we as peers need to do a better job of providing leadership training to people coming in. We have the same thing here. People will occasionally take a year before they take any associates, and you kind of gotta a new peer kind of has to fluff their feathers and settle into that role, right? And sometimes a year isn't enough. Man, as a new peer, I have made so many mistakes. I've been a peer 5 years this October. And the first 3 years were the years that we were playing and before the pandemic. I made so many mistakes. I had no idea what I was doing. And it's difficult to, people are like, oh, just ask for help. Just ask for help if you need it, right? You can come to me anytime and I'm here for you. There's that, but there's also this expectation of, well, I'm a new peer. I should be able to do this myself. Right. So a lot of those expectations are things that we kind of put on ourselves as new peers because there's this culture of, well, you're a peer. So now you have to know everything.
Whereas the day before you were working with committees and you had a peer to back you. And it's literally that one day. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel that, like I said, that we as peers need to be better about providing things like leadership classes. And this is something that Axel and I have talked about a lot because he's got leadership training in real life. Right. He was in the military and he's now in government, and he is that is his job, is leadership, basically. So it has helped me to watch him and see how he leads and see how he deals with certain things. But not everybody has access to somebody like him who has all of this background and who can say, well, maybe you should think about it like this, or maybe you should consider approaching it this way. But I think we need that. I think we really, really, really need that. Not just for peers, especially for peers, but also for landed and crown. Landed and crowns, they turn over, right? Once you're a peer, you're pretty much a peer for life, unless something happens, unless you decide you don't want to do this anymore, right?
Or you do a really, really dumb thing.
Or you do a really, really dumb thing.
Yeah.
But that peerage is a long time. So I am 35, right? I am going to be a peer for, if I don't die, for at least another, 50 years, maybe?
Yeah.
For as long as I play in the SCA. So that is overwhelming to think about. Man, another 50. Like, I've made all of these mistakes in my first 5 years. What mistakes am I going to make in the next 50?
You have 10 times as many mistakes to make now, and even more, honestly.
Man. So there's the hope that you get better, that you learn from your past mistakes, and I feel like the people who survive the best in leadership roles are the people who can learn from past mistakes, but not everybody can, and sometimes you have to make those mistakes over and over again, right, to learn from them.
All right, so I'm gonna put you on the spot with a question here, as a peer with, and start drinking there, and honestly, and as a landed noble, right? So, are you having those conversations with your associates and with your barony? Are you teaching those things?
Right? So you can't force somebody to learn, right? You can't go up to another peer and be like, man, you have almost watch my language, man, you have really screwed up.
There we go. You can say fuck now. We're good.
Man, you have fucked up, because I've also fucked up, right? I've also been there. But to be like, man, you are drinking your own Kool-Aid, and maybe you need to kind of take a step back and reevaluate how you're approaching, the people around you, the people in your household, the people in your barony, like really need to reconsider. And it's hard to have that conversation with people when they don't want to hear it. And you can try and initiate those conversations over and over and over again, but unless they are receptive, there's nothing that you can do. And now that you've tried to open this door and have this conversation with this person, now you're the asshole for calling them out on their problems. So that is also a very, very fine line to walk, I'm finding. And I feel that the way I handle it best is I have conversations with my associates. All right, let's talk about this problem that you're having, how I would approach it, and kind of lead by example, right? This is how I would approach it, but I'm not you. You do it your way, and like, you do you, boo. Like that is one of my favorite phrases. You do you.
You do you, boo.
That's not necessarily a negative thing. I am not in your shoes. I don't have the same experience that you do that colors my perceptions.
Right.
So hopefully, by me giving you the information that I have, you can take what I've given you and your own life experiences and combine them to find something that works for you. And in the terms of the barony, like, all I can really do is be available for people who want to talk about leadership, who want feedback from my perspective, and lead by example. And like I said, I fucked up a lot. So my example may not always be the best one. You just kind of got to do what you got to do.
No, but to answer my own question, because I asked you that with an answer in mind, and I knew what your answer was going to be, so I sort of led you down that path. It's all about playing the part, right? That leading by example is playing the part. So you're setting the example for your associates. You're setting the example for your barony. You're setting the example for your kingdom. You're allowing them to see that. So you realize you had a fault. You had a thing you didn't do well. You found a source in Axel of management experience, and you're now learning. You now get to pass that on via your example of doing things with your people, your people, whoever your people are, that allows passing that on. And as far as your things you've done wrong, having those conversations and letting them know what you did wrong is that same example. It's that same thing, being open and honest about it. I've talked about this on the show a couple of times, being open and honest about your mess ups. Yeah. Right? Having these conversations is the thing.
And communication.
Right. Oh my God.
Being able to talk about it, like that expectation of, right.
Yes.
Like, we get it. Having that conversation of, well, this is this is where I think I messed up. This is how I feel. This is why I messed up. And I'm really, really sorry. But feeling that weight of being a peer, being a crown, being landed, and having to be perfect. Like one of my favorite episodes of yours is the Perfection Not Needed episode.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Because we do put a lot of weight on ourselves well, I'm a peer now. I can't do anything wrong. I can't go out and drink and like spit water on a night. Like definitely can't do that. Definitely shouldn't do that. I'm sorry, Sir Angus. But like these are all there's a word for it. They're all learning experiences.
Right.
That you just kind of have to get over and move on and remind yourself, maybe I shouldn't do that again. Maybe Red Bull and vodka is not my friend. So
maybe just one less. Just have one less Red Bull and vodka. Yeah, a little less vodka, a little more Red Bull. Yeah. No, I think that's yes. Communication is the key. I think I've been doing interviews this week, and I, as a project manager, I say that word, and I almost feel like I'm repeating myself too many times when I'm doing interviews because communication fixes so many of the problems. Just talk about the shit, folks. It's not that hard.
To people. Like, we're adults. That's my first question to people. I'm like, hey, I'm having this problem with this person. I'm like, well, have you talked to him?
Yeah.
Well, no. I'm like, well, go and try and have that conversation. And if they're not receptive, they're not receptive, and you've done what you can, and you just kind of have to let it go. But unless you have attempted communication, then don't come to me and expect me to fix your problems. Right. And that's not to say I'm not going to talk to you and provide my experience and yada, yada, yada. But please just talk to people. We're adults. Please just talk to each other. Sorry.
Okay, we'll breathe here. All right. So John, you had mentioned a class on franchising you for new peers. I think that's a great idea. I have concern about this because I think that idea is going to be very different kingdom to kingdom. So my advice and sort of advice to the general internet out there, and if you're watching this show, you're already sort of here. Watch these shows, right? Watch the internet shows, talk to people, because you get a broad range of experience. I think that, again, that communication helps and see how different people play the part. So if you talk to people who are peers in Glenalvin and Meridies, in Artemisia, in the West, you can get very different responses from their landed nobility, from their bestowed peers, and you sort of take that all in. As a fighter, and you can, I'm sure, share this as well. We get a ton of advice from all these different knights, all these different great hot sticks, and we go, okay, and you take one little morsel of it and go, I can do that, cool, because most of it doesn't work.
Yeah,
for you,
not for you.
Your path is different.
But that also applies to everything. That applies to leadership. Like, there are skills that Axel has that do not work for me. Right. They are not. I'm not that kind of person. And there's skills
it's the anime here. It gives him superpowers, I think. I could say that because he's not here. Haha.
No, but he's probably watching from the other end of the house, and he's going to come in. But there's things like, all I can do at the end of the day, like back to playing the part. Mm-hmm. All I can do is the best that I can do. Right. If I know that in my heart I have tried to do the best that I can by the people that are around me, then you kind of have to be okay with it. I have a really hard time letting things go. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be friends. And sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes you just kind of have to, like, look, I'm sorry things didn't work out, and let it go. And I'm not good at that. Right. So that works the same with playing the part. You just have to go out there, do the best you can do with the knowledge that you have, with the experiences that you have. And keep in mind, look, the rules that I go by. Like, make it fun, don't be a dick. Like, 2 rules. Like, if you can do those 2 things, then you can't be all bad, right? Make it fun, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Like, love Sylvie's comment. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't shove his head under the water till bubbles come out of his nose.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean you can do that in fact, but shouldn't. Yeah, there you go. All right, let me do a couple of show plugs here. Then I've got one final question for you, Jack, and this is gonna be a fun one. You'll like it. Okay. All right, coming up next on Kal-bardr's Corner tomorrow, I'll be joined again by Oyang for Unpack Your Shit Part 1.2. We ran really long for Part 1, so we're gonna try that again. And then we have next Sunday, Remote will be back with Road to Retention, interviewing Lady Vigdis and Lordship Thorhall. It's a twofer. We've got a couple on there. Great people from out in Artemisia. Looking forward to hearing their thoughts and opinions. And then on the 19th, speaking of James and I think and Sylvia is out there watching, which means Fergus is probably somewhere nearby being loud. 3 Former Fat Guys, Episode 1. The Comedy Hour of Ridiculousness. The following Sunday, so not next Sunday, but the next one, the 22nd, I'll be joined again by Fergus. I'll be on camera with him twice that week, and that's too much Fergus for me for 1 week, but we're going to do it. We're going to talk fighting, talking about being that fighter in that small pond, or sort of how to get out of your bubble there. And introducing our next show, the newest show for Kal-bardr's Corner, Rekindling the Magic. This is a new show by Master Aslak, watching in the comments here, interviewing the Bart. Talking about creating ambiance. A little more about playing the parts. We talked about a little bit today. Bart is an inspiration out there in Artemisia. We're going to really hear what he does to make Bartemisia. That's true, everywhere. He's everywhere. In Glen Albin. He's also been on the board. Just amazing folks. But they often refer to Artemisia as Bartemisia, and he creates his own little atmosphere out there. So looking forward to hearing their thoughts, and happy to have a new show on the channel. So, as always, if you want to join the Kal-bardr's Corner and KK Productions and sponsor everything we do here, check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/KK Productions. Join our grand wall of patrons. I completely forgot. We'd like to welcome coaches, the SCA Coaches Corner, now to the KK Productions family. I ran a show for them on Friday. We're going to get them set up on the platform and moving. So happy to give them some new tools. And last but not least, if you don't want to check us out on Patreon, check us out on Redbubble, search KK Productions. I think that's all my things. All right, Jack, I got one question for you. You got mad at me the other day, and I want to ask about this. You talked about your garb being intimidating, and you were mad that I didn't pick a picture of you in garb for our show graphic. So I've got to ask, can you please explain this picture? I need to hear the story about this picture and why you're that savage.
Oh my God.
Give me the story.
Okay, so, oh Lord. So we stepped up as B&B in August of 2019. Mm-hmm. In January of 2020, we put on our only event so far as B&B. We have one more, which is our step down. So that event is called Barbarian Brawl. Mm-hmm. It is typically, so it's held in January. It's a local event. It's typically not a huge event. And it is our fun make-believe event. Like in the past, it's been kind of like Arabian themed, and it's been like orc themed. They did a Japanese, and it's kind of a fantasy style event. Like it is all about having fun. Right. It's not a bring your best clothes and your best, your fanciest, most historically accurate. It's more of a let's get together, have some fun, do some artsy stuff, do some fighting, tell stories. And typically in the past, the Baron and Baroness at the time would wear these outrageous costumes for court, right? Fitting whatever the theme was. Well, my lovely partner, Sir Axel, Baron Axel, is all about he's very much a fitness person, right? So he leans into that bro aspect of the fitness culture pretty hard sometimes. So this event was autocrated by a friend of ours, Sarah Deval, and she loves us dearly because she let us do whatever we wanted. And we did a Brobarian themed, we did Brobarian.
All right.
And we did a couple of different things in court. We did a Conan the Barbarian. Like, we came in with furs and had our herald announce us using the Conan speech. And then we did there was one other thing. And then the last thing we did in that court was a WWE themed entrance, because we'd get up, we'd go into court, and their majesties would call us out and be like, you can't do that, it's copyrighted. So we'd leave, change clothes, come back in with a different entrance, and it was really a lot of fun. So what is going on right there is Axel bought a WWE white belt, and it had just come in the mail. And that was actually a picture I took for him to send to him. My sunglasses are they say Savage on them as the whole Randy Savage thing. I'm not a WWE person. I watched a whole bunch of clips to get ready for this, and I ended up with I made myself my garb is based on Ottoman court garb. So I made myself an interior and put this outrageous, like, faux green fur around it. I had those Savage glasses on. Axel, when we walked into court that time, he had his white belt on. And when he got to the front, he took and ripped the sleeves off of his caftan that he was wearing. And, like, just we played the part, all right.
If that's not playing the part, I don't know what is at this point.
So that was we had Sir Chip walked in with us, and a lot of the Stag and Bear Company like had these cut off shirts on with muscles, and we did a whole we did a whole WWE entrance, and that was where that picture came from, and I regret it. Like, everybody else in your headers, like, nice pictures, and there's tons of pictures of me in my garb, and I look all fancy and like someone who should be a Baroness in the SC. Like, I played in my station, and then you pick that one. So.
Yep, I did. Okay, so when I was scrolling through, I saw that picture. I was like, "We're done. That's the one we're going with." There was no choice for me, because you're right. You have a bunch of good pictures, and your garb is amazing. I went with that one because I wanted the story. So there you go.
Well, there's the story. Like, there's pictures on my Facebook of, like, with that great big fur collar popped, and, like, just being silly, and people loved it because it wasn't that stuffy, not that being crown is stuffy. It wasn't that up here level like we talked about earlier. Yeah. It was that accessible, relatable, let's have fun and let's make it fun. Don't be a dick.
There you go.
There you go.
You got a little somebody saying hi to you in the comments there.
Hey, Art, I love you. And Mickey. Oh, Mickey, I miss you.
All right, Jack, I appreciate you. You're the best. This has been fun. Oh,
this has been fun. Thank you very much for inviting me on.
Of course. You are welcome back whenever. If you and Axel want to come hang out and chat.
Oh, God.
Every other Sunday. I think having you and Axel on for a show, talking about the benefits of being fit as Baron and Baroness or something would be a fun one, right? Just talking about his workout routine, maybe, you know.
Yeah, I'll talk to him. I'll see. God. Well, right. I hope today that I have played the part of somebody who knew what they were talking about and have done what you requested of me.
I think you've been brilliant.
Oh, well, thank you.
But until next time, this is an empty cup. I'm Cal, and that's Jack, and this has been Cal and Jack and Kal-bardr's Corner. Have a good day, everybody. Oh, and happy Mother's Day for everybody out there. So enjoy that. Go. Don't forget to call your moms. Have a good one.